Every story appears ordinary till you see the core side of it.
And what you're looking for is the story behind the news.
We bring it to you from Lagos, the commercial capital of Nigeria.
Giving you all sides and political stories round the clock.
Every detail from the start line to the final whistle.
CoreTV News, expanding your view.
Hello, thank you for joining us on CoreTV Primetime News. Hi, I'm Frank Komalape. Our top stories tonight. The federal government says it will continue to negotiate with organized labor unions on the new fuel price regime in the country. Rising from the Federal Executive Council meeting presided over by President Muhammadu Buhari, the federal government maintains it took the labor union to court to prevent the breakdown of law and order in the country. A State House correspondent Abiola Oluwole also reports that the federal government denies instigating the factionalization of labor unions. The report now.
The arrival of President Muhammadu Buhari into the council chambers at 10 a.m. signals the commencement of the first Federal Executive Council meeting after the hike in petrol pump price from 87 to 145 naira by government. Ministers of Labour and Employment, Power, Works and Housing, Information and Culture, and the Attorney General took time to brief State House correspondents about deliberations at the meeting. Expectedly, the planned industrial action by organized labor unions as a fallout of the recent hike in pump price of petrol forms the crux of the briefing. According to the Minister of Labour and Employment, government is open to negotiations on the new pump price.
Government also agreed with them that the PPRA board will be constituted within the next 2 weeks. The PPRA board is the board that is responsible for fixing the templates on price of petroleum.
But while organized labor and federal government were meeting on how to avert the planned industrial action, the Attorney General got an injunction barring the strike action. The action, according to the Attorney General, Minister of Justice, is to prevent any breakdown of law and order in the country.
The rule of law regulates our actions and analysis of the law to understand what the position of the law is and ensure that it is accordingly enforced is what is the major consideration of the government.
Minister of Power, Works and Housing disclosed that government is exploring a new tax policy that will fast-track the infrastructure renewal in the country.
Any corporate or individual that makes an investment in infrastructure of a public nature should be entitled to make claims for remission on its income tax obligation.
As the economic challenge bites harder, the Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, affirms that efforts are in top gear to roll out palliatives as contained in the 2016 budget. From the presidential villa in Abuja, Abiola Oluwole, reporting for CoreTV News.
Meanwhile, in spite of a strike action called by a faction of the Nigerian Labour Congress over the increase in fuel pump price by the federal government, courts in the Federal Capital Territory went on with normal activities. ACRUD monitored the effectiveness of the industrial action in Abuja and reports that court proceedings were not interrupted. Correspondent Basil Okafo has more.
Judiciary workers in the FCT reported for duties at their duty posts early Wednesday morning, in spite of call by a faction of the NLC that workers should stay away from work. Though they refused to speak on camera about the development, those who spoke off camera say that the umbrella body of the Judiciary Staff Union is not in support of the NLC proposed strike. The Nigerian Bar Association is equally reacting to the strike action called by the NLC and some civil society organizations. At a news conference in Abuja, NBA President Augustine Alege wants the federal government to be specific on whether it is removing fuel subsidy or increasing fuel pump price.
We are lawyers. We work on empirical evidence and facts. If we are agreeing to subsidy removal, then we should know what we are agreeing to. If we are agreeing to price increase, we should know what we are agreeing to. If we are protesting, we should know what we are protesting against.
As a fashion of the organized labor in the country, and its civil society allies are determined to shut down the economy over the increase in fuel pump price, the federal government is, on the other hand, assuring Nigerians of palliative measures that will cushion the effect of the increment. Basil Okafo, CoreTV News, Abuja.
And our fuel price hike is an abdication of responsibility and a passing of the buck by the federal government of its failures over time to the people of Nigeria. Nigerians must therefore join the movement against fuel price hike and other Bretton Woods-inspired economic policies and rescue President Muhammadu Buhari from an economic cabal forcing down anti-people policies on the people. Ayuba Waba and other leaders of his faction of the Nigerian Labour Congress also urged workers and all Nigerians to see the struggle as one for all, as the strike the faction declared officially starts in Abuja. Correspondent Kazim Kosali brings us more.
With the federal government delegation, which also includes the Edo State Governor, Adams Oshiomhole, its former president of the Nigerian Labour Congress, Ayuba Waba, who has lost some important allies in the course of the talks in the Trade Union Congress, described as a marathon what the union is entering into, as the increment is a passing of the buck and abdication of responsibility by the federal government. He urges workers in the Federal Secretariat to join the movement to rescue Nigeria and save the downtrodden masses from Bretton Woods institutions-inspired policies. Also speaking at the procession, which made its first stop on the journey around the city of Abuja at the Federal Secretariat.
When you call for review, it can also be either downward or upward. They said that on the table. And they said if government cannot in many states pay 18, how can we therefore request for review? So it's one of the issues we said.
Issa Aremu, General Secretary of the Union of Textile and Garment Workers, disclosed that the All Progressives Congress-led federal government must engage the people before instituting further hardship in the form of a fuel price hike. He opined that the President, Muhammadu Buhari, is under the influence of an economic cabal, urging Nigerians to join the movement to resist fuel price hike and rescue him.
What we are doing, we should not be tired of it. This is the way it is to be. When we start gradually, it will definitely build up. But today, we have shown that we are the soul of Nigerians. Because if this policy is allowed to go without single protest, then they will increase more.
This protester expresses delight that some patriotic Nigerians have joined the cause, while urging others to be a part of change and save Nigeria. But just as the procession led by Waba and other labor leaders continue to urge civil servants and Nigerians to join the strike actions, workers were queuing up to enter their offices at the Federal Secretariat. But time will tell if this is only a small group and will not hinder the success of the strike. Kazim Kasali, CoreTV News, Abuja.
And monitoring now the action in Lagos, the Lagos State chapter of the Nigerian Labour Congress, Trade Union Congress and other civil society groups led a demonstration in Lagos in keeping with their promise to embark on an indefinite strike to protest the recent removal of petrol subsidy. Members of organized labor began the protest march from the NFC head office in Yaba via the popular Ikorodu Road with pockets of road blockage in other parts of Lagos metropolis. Our correspondent Akiobake brings us more.
Sight and sound of members of labor unions representing a cross-section of Nigerians yearning for a downward review in current pump price of petrol, despite the injunction of the National Industrial Court to halt this protest. and a two-day NLC TUC talks with the federal government that left a faction of Labour leaders somewhat pleased and another faction disgruntled. Lagos chapter of Labour says no going back until government reverts.
We are going to enforce this strike and mass action, and it's indefinite. But because of the disinformation, it's indefinite. We are prepared to go as long as the government reverts.
The workers are threatening on immediate closure of schools throughout the state.
It is the people's mandate that placed them there. They should listen. And so, within the mandate of teachers of primary and secondary schools, we have shut down all our schools until when further directives come from NLC head office.
United can never be defeated. United can never be defeated.
Engaging the whole of Lagos in a mass protest by the Nigerian Labour Congress and civil societies of Nigeria. Now they have pledged to go on for as long as possible, indefinitely, until the federal government comes to revert the point price of petrol and fuel. Akin Obake, CoreTV News, Lagos.
And now still in Lagos, Lagos Commissioner of Police Fatai Owosheni is calling on Labour Union members participating in the petrol subsidy protest to maintain a peaceful atmosphere. While addressing Labour leaders at one of the rally points in Lagos, Owosheni promises that security personnel will not intimidate or engage protesters as long as the procession remains peaceful and orderly. Our correspondent Victoria Solomon monitored the protests in Lagos and tells us more.
To me, if hoodlums come throwing stones at you, what can you stop them?
It is common for security operatives to be on ground during a protest so as to prevent breakdown of law and order. The case is not different as organized labor takes to the streets of Lagos to show their displeasure for federal government's removal of petrol subsidy. From the takeoff point at Yaba to Murtala Mohammed Airport in Ikeja, policemen are on ground to ensure the march is kept peaceful.
We don't even need to deploy men. Once people are peaceful, it's been done in a civilized manner. We are not at war with anyone. So it is not about using police dominance. We are not intimidating anybody. You can see people that want to go about their business are going about their business.
An initial dialogue between protesting members of labor unions, civil society groups and the police saw to the smoothness of the procession. Until the protesters approach a roadblock by another set of security operatives.
Calm down. Now what's wrong with you? I'm sorry, sir. Let them go through.
The men of the Nigerian police have been instructed by the Commissioner of Police, Fatai Owosheni, that there should be law and order during this protest. But then it is expected that the protesters maintain law and order and calmness so that the police will not engage them. Victoria Solomon, CoreTV News, Lagos.
Let's take you back to Abuja. The nation's capital is still in continuation of its demand for total reversal of pump price of premium motor spirit to 86 naira 30 kobo. The Nigerian Labour Congress took over the popular Beja Junction in nation's capital, Abuja. Leaders of the Ayuba Waba-led faction of the Nigerian Labour Congress and its civil society allies are calling on government to accede to a demand of a total crackdown as all commercial activities in the country are now in full stop. Our correspondent Emmanuel Ehejine reports.
In line with its stated resolve to compel government to listen to its demand for the reversal of the pump price of petrol, the NLC started its activities to mobilize Nigerians to join the action from the Federal Secretariat through the popular wholesale market and ended up at Beja amidst heavy security presence. The aim, according to its leader, is to ensure that the government listens to its demand and end its alleged anti-people's policies.
If the price of crude, which as a country we pray that it will go up so that we can have more revenue. But once it goes up, it also goes to the fact that increase in the pump price at home, because we depend on importation, will continue to go up.
It is very clear from everything that is
all the available data and statistics that PMS is not also going to be available at 1:45. Yes. It's going to be double tragedy. Right now, Nigerians are contending with darkness. They are paying more for darkness.
Other members of Labour and civil society coalition also reacted to the procession and what it aims to achieve.
You can't hold on to 1:45 and tell us there is no alternative and you are not shifting grounds. That is not dialogue. That is a military command.
This is an economic policy that will actually throw the economy into ruin, that will further lead to the decline and contraction of the economy. But much more importantly is the impact that it's going to have on ordinary citizens.
This, according to the leaders of the coalition, is just the beginning. They promise that the days ahead will show that they mean business.
You're watching CoreTV Primetime News. Just to call ahead of the news tonight, the Army confirms the rescue one Chibok girl out of 219 Chibok that was kidnapped in April 2014. We'll bring you details after this break. Join us again.
VAT, Value Added Tax, is a tax paid on all goods and services and remitted by the seller of the goods or provider of the service to government. 5% VAT is added to the total cost of goods and services in Nigeria, and when remitted to government, is used for funding development. The VAT you pay will be used by government to develop our transport infrastructure, like roads and railway lines, to continually improve our educational sector by building more schools and upgrading existing ones, to provide adequate security and a better quality of life for us all. Pay your VAT. Make your contributions to the development of Nigeria. It pays to pay your tax. This message is from the Federal Inland Revenue Service.
If you just join us, you're watching CoreTV Primetime News live from our Lagos studios. All our top stories can be found on our social media, but before then, let's take you through our major headlines again. We want to remind you that all our top stories can be found on our social media platforms. It's facebook.com/CoreTV News. You can also follow us at CoreTV News NG. Subscribe now to our YouTube channel. It's youtube.com/CoreTV. Leave a space, the news. And now the Army has confirmed the rescue of one of the 219 girls abducted from their school in Chibok more than 2 years ago. In a statement, Army spokesman Colonel Sani Usman said the girl Famata Mbalala was found in Bale, near the town of Damboa, 90 kilometers southwest of the Borno State capital, Maiduguri. He discloses that she was found on Tuesday night and was taken to a military base in Damboa. A Chibok youth leader, Manasseh Alan, also confirmed that the girl was found by local vigilantes and taken to the vice principal of her school, who immediately identify her. We continue with the coverage of the projects by NLC. Osun residents in Oshogbo, the Osun State capital, woke up to traffic gridlock and lawling commercial activities as members of the Nigerian Labour Congress and civil society groups under the Joint Action Front took to the street. Chanting solidarity songs, they protested the increase in the price of petrol in compliance with the directive of the NSC. The protesters who mounted a roadblock at the Olaya roundabout, which is the major entry route in the town, also sat on the floor, making it impossible for motorists to drive in and out of the state capital. Speaking with journalists during the protest, the state chairman of the Nigerian Labour Congress, Comrade Jacob Adekomi, says the strike will go on as long as the government refuses to yield to the demands. Meanwhile, the organized labor unions in Plateau State are calling on Nigerians to join the strike action embarked upon by workers and the nation. While speaking with a correspondent at the State Secretariat in Jos, they said all they can do is to lead the protest, while it is upon Nigerians to support the effort in salvaging what is left of the nation's commonwealth from selected few.
The state's representatives of the civil liberty organizations and the civil society organizations are urging Nigerians to participate fully in the ongoing strike because it is a fight for the soul of the nation's wealth, adding that it is the responsibility of the government to expose and apprehend those who engage in acts of sabotage.
The Labour have done their best. What Nigerians need to do is to rise up to the occasion and know that it's not a selfish interest, it's not a religious interest, it's not an ethnic interest, it's a national interest that we must all pursue.
This strike belongs to all of us. It's a struggle that all of us must be part of it. And for us as a union, we pray that the government will listen to us and know that we are struggling for the downtrodden, for the masses.
The state chairman of the Nigerian Union of Teachers says the reason for the partial compliance is because they got the directive for the strike late yesterday, and that circulars have been distributed to all the schools in the state to close their doors.
Though my foot soldiers are busy distributing letters, by tomorrow I don't think you'll see any child coming to school. For those that are within and they have access to our communication, it's a total closure.
Totally, we are mobilizing committees. We have moved around and we have seen how everybody has complied in the state.
Though the strike is partial in Plateau State due to the free vehicular movement, the state secretariat of banks in Jos are under locks and keys.
And now to South now. Federal and state civil servant in Calabar, the Cross River state capital, joined in the nationwide NLC strike to protest the hike in petrol price. Labour unions took to major streets of Calabar in a solidarity walk carrying placards with different inscriptions to convey the disapproval over the hike in petrol price and electricity tariff by the Buhari-led administration. The Labour unions are demanding that the President see to it that the nation's refineries begin to function and salaries of civil servants are increased before government can increase petroleum pump price. And now the strike called by the Nigerian Labour Congress throughout the country is having effect in Kwara State as the Labour leaders prevent workers from gaining access to their offices. At the State Secretariat in Ilorin, security operatives were manning the gates with several vehicles of the workers being denied access. The situation is the same at the State Secretariat of the NSC, where they gathered on how to picket offices. The banks in town seems not to be affected as customers move in and out to transact business. The transport unions, especially taxi drivers, engage in their business despite the strike. The state chairman of NSC, Yakini Agumbiade, said the Labour will continue the strike until the petrol price is reversed.
The issue of minimum wage is apart. The issue of fuel is apart, and the tariff. And we want to call the government that this time around, the Minister for State for Petroleum should resign, or these bodies to sack him, because they don't know what they are saying. Because they told us before that they are not going to withdraw the subsidy. Now they will withdraw the subsidy.
Why precisely are not joining the strike is a national directive. And like I said earlier, the national president of the Trade Union Congress has deemed it fit that owing to the latest development that arose, and by virtue of the acceptance of the federal government side to comply and accede to our demands, that we sit on the round table.
And now, despite threats by the Nigerian Labour Congress to continue with its planned strike action, the federal government has advised all workers in the civil service to resume for work today, saying the no work, no pay rule will be invoked in all ministries, agencies and departments. The National Industrial Accord had earlier issued an injunction that the NFC and Trade Union Congress should shut its proposed downing of tools on Wednesday, implying that anyone embarking on strike is doing so illegally. Our correspondent went round Kaduna Metropolis and reports that workers were seen at their duty post. Well, we'll bring you that report in our subsequent bulletins. In the meantime, the Minister of Labour, Chris Ngigi, says those who are on strike following the increase in petroleum pump price are at risk of facing a fine of 100,000 naira and 6 months in jail as prescribed by Section 40 of the Labour laws. The minister discloses this while fielding questions from journalists at the end of the weekly Federal Executive Council meeting presided over by President Muhammadu Buhari. He wonders why the NLC did not abide by the constitutional provision of serving government the initial 15 days notice before calling out the strike. Also speaking, the Minister of Justice, Abubakar Malami, says the federal government went to court to stop the NLC from going on strike to prevent what they call a possible breakdown of law and order and hardship on the generality of Nigerians. In the meantime, the Senate has directed its Committee on Labour to join the federal government and the Nigerian Labour Congress on the negotiation table over the hike in fuel price. The upper chamber took the decision after a 35-minute closed session presided over by the Deputy President of the Senate, Ike Ekweremadu. The Committee on Labour, headed by Senator Mohammed Nassif, was specifically directed to commence immediate dialogue with the negotiating team to ensure an early resolution of the crisis. You're still watching CoreTV Primetime News. We'll take another break now, bring you more stories and sport and stories across Nigeria.
With over 7 billion of world population and still counting, the world needs to hear you now than ever. Whatever your ministry or vision is, Gospel Africa will help get you there faster than you think possible. For inquiries and participation, contact 009 503 3859 or 0812 076 0011 or visit www.gospelafricang.com. Gospel Africa, your #1 media solutions for the church today. Gospel Africa, showing on this station at this time. CoreTV News now live on all Androids.
Welcome to CoreTV Primetime News.
Download CoreTV News app from your Play Store. Click on the menu to see all our top stories from politics, sports, business, foreign news and live TV to watch us live on your mobile.
I want to know why I should be believing them.
You can also click on video to see all our YouTube videos. CoreTV News, a 24-hour news station.
Outside Nigeria now, the UK-based Amnesty International have accused Yemen's Houthi rebels of arresting and torturing their political rivals. Amnesty International says the politicians, activists, journalists, and academics were targeted and detained by the Houthis and their allies in 60 cases it looked at between December 2014 and March 2016. The report said the incident happened in the Houthi-led capital Sana'a, as well as the contested city of Ibb, Taiz, and Hodeidah. He said many of those arrested have been held incommunicado for prolonged periods, suffering torture and other ill treatment while being denied access to a lawyer or their family. The Houthi rebel group, backed by troops loyal to former President Ali Abdullah Saleh, have been fighting against forces that includes southern separatists, tribal fighters, and military loyal to current President Abdurrahman Mansour Hadi, who is in exile in Saudi Arabia. And now at least 37 people have been killed and nearly 220,000 displaced by landslides which crashed into at least 3 villages in Arahaka in the Central Hills of Sri Lanka following torrential rains. A government official who is part of the rescue effort discloses that one village, Siripura, was buried 40 feet under the mud. The Disaster Management Center reports that over 350,000 people were affected by the landslides and about 220 families are reported to be missing. The army has been called out to help with the rescue effort. And our communist rebel leaders have welcomed a possible offer of 4 cabinet posts from Philippines' presumptive president-elect. Rodrigo Duterte, who won the May 9 presidential election by a landslide according to an official count, say he will probably offer the Communist Party of the Philippines cabinet positions in agrarian reform, environment, social welfare, and labor. The party says that an alliance would need to be based on principles such as social justice and national sovereignty, including an end to the presence of U.S. troops. In a statement, the party said the CPP and the revolutionary forces welcome the possibility of joining presumptive President Duterte in an alliance government, whether in the form of assigning cabinet positions to the CPP or it endorses or some other more radical form of unity government, which the maverick new president might be open to consider. And now let's take you to some sports news now.
Our style, and that's what he delivered.
And now heartbreaks for Liverpool tears in the stand, tears on the pitch as well, as Sevilla defeated Liverpool. Liverpool took the lead in the first half through striker Daniel Sturridge, but Sevilla scored 3 goals in the second through Gameiro and Anduja Moreno, ensured that Sevilla won the game 3-1. With this win, Sevilla has won the European League Cup for 3 consecutive times and sealed a place in next season's Champions League. And now the House of Representatives have summoned the Minister of Youth and Sports, Solomon Dalong, over the lingering leadership Thursday at the Nigerian Football Federation. Also summoned are the President of the Football Federation, Amaju Penik, and Chris Giver, who is laying claim to the position. The leadership crisis in the NFF had deepened since April 8 after a just federal high court ruling, which had initially been interpreted as sacking Pinnick from office, but of which the registrar of the court has since explained to the contrary. But in spite of the interpretation and the peace meeting organized by the sports minister, its turbulence in the football house has continued. But on Tuesday, the House, in a resolution in Abuja, observed that the crisis could range the country's football if it was not resolved quickly. It also noted that for the second time, Nigeria again risks being suspended from all football competitions by the international governing body FIFA. And now Plateau United has dismissed their interim coach Victor Vikatsin following a directive from the Nigerian Football Federation. Vikatsin and some players in the club's feeder team are still on the ban, having been found guilty of a match-fixing allegation during the 2030 Nigeria Nationwide League playoff. Plateau United of feeders Akubro United FC of Lafia, Police Machine FC of Yola, and Babayaro FC of Gombe were involved in unimaginable scorelines of 6-7-0 and 79-0, and the Nigerian Football Federation set up a panel that recommended that players, team officials, and match officials involved in the shameful event be banned for life from the game. The letter signed by the General Secretary Mohammed Sanusi on Tuesday instructed the Plateau State Football Association to ensure that the ban is enforced. The reminder became necessary in view of the move by NPFL's side, Plateau State United FC, on Monday to appoint Victor Vikatsin as new head coach. And finally, tonight in sport, veteran Chelsea defender John Terry has signed a new one-year deal with the Premier League club. In an emotional speech after his side's final league game against Leicester on Sunday, the 35-year-old, who was on out contract in the summer, says he wanted to remain at the club. He says, "Everyone knows I'm Chelsea through, and I am looking forward to next season under the new manager, and hopefully we can make it a successful one." According to Terry, has made 703 first-team appearances for the Blues, having started his professional career at Stamford Bridge in 1998. He has won 4 Premier League titles, 5 FA Cups, 3 League Cups, and Champions League and European League honours with Chelsea. You've been watching CoreTV Primetime News. Before we go tonight, a recap of our major headline now. And that's it tonight. Thank you for being part of our bulletins. I am Frank Komalape on behalf of the entire news production. Have a good night.